Hi, Father Tony. Good to see you again.
Hi, Al. Good to be with you, too. So, May 30th,
Right.
feast day of St. Joan of Arc.
Right.
And so today we're going to talk a little bit about her. In the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, we have St. Joan of Arc Parish in Neshota, right. Father Mike Strakota, its pastor. And we also have an important landmark at our alma mater, Marquette University. Right. We have the Joan of Arc Chapel, a gift from France to Marquette University back in 1966. I know I prayed in that chapel.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. Daily Mass when I was a senior at Marquette, it meant a lot to me at that time in my life, that's for sure. So Joan was born on the Feast of the Epiphany, January 6th in 1412 in northeastern France. And it was during a time of the 100 Years' War, which is more than a century-long battle between France and Britain as to who the rightful heir to the throne in France was. She was born in a region that was very loyal to France and not to England. By the time she was 7, she started receiving voices that she said were sent from God. They were of Michael the Archangel, Catherine of Alexandria, and Margaret of Antioch. By the time she was middle teens, about 17, they became very insistent that she had other things that she needed to do more specific to the 100 Years' War. That she was, in fact, to lead the king's forces against the English somehow, right? A peasant girl, an illiterate farm girl, was going to lead armies against the English in order to win back this freedom for France.
And who would believe that?
Yeah, exactly. It defies logic, quite frankly. So she did. She was able to meet with the prince. She was able to secure armies, and she won a succession of battles that ultimately led to France's winning the 100 Years' War. That would have been after her death, but when she was 17, she started that. Within a year, she was arrested. There was a sensational and a very corrupt trial. They eventually found that she was a witch, and she was burned at the stake on May 30th in 1431. So she was 19 when she died.
And she was exonerated, though.
25 years later, correct,
yeah.
Right. Her mother actually led that crusade and said she's been wronged because this was such a corrupt trial by the bishop who was really out to get her, overturned the findings and that she was innocent. And she wasn't canonized until about 500 years later.
Yeah, 1920.
Correct. But still a remarkable young woman to do what she did against all odds, against all social conventions, right? For a woman to lead forces into battle, as you said, a farm girl, illiterate, all of those things. Just a wonderfully strong person. So, Father Tony, what can you tell us about St. Joan's personality, her characteristics?
Well, again, we have a teenage girl, a peasant farmer, and she's going to come and tell these military leaders, these kings, and say, I'm going to lead you in battle. She must have been very, very persuasive. She must have been very determined, very brave. Right. Very courageous, and not only that, to go into battle. She survived a wound, an arrow to her upper breast, and she was a survivor. She was determined, and she must have been very faith-filled, as most saints are, right. Because she was able to go through battle, trials, and being burned at the stake. So very determined, very persuasive, and very loyal to her God. So Al, tell me a little bit about how we see Joan of Arc depicted and what symbols are affiliated with her.
Well, sure. She's always depicted wearing armor, having a shield because of her obvious connection to battle, having a sword either in her hand or in its sheath to, again, show that she was a leader. The fleur-de-lis is common as well, which is a
symbol of France.
Correct, a national symbol of France.
She wore men's clothing, especially when she was in prison, that she was meant to protect her from being raped and being assaulted. So her armor literally was to protect her.
Sure. Well, and on the battlefield, if she's dressed like the other men, they're going to take orders from someone who looks like them, like a man, because that was the times, 15th century, that would have been the norm. It wouldn't have been the norm to follow someone in a petticoat into battle.
Absolutely.
So it was a protective thing. It certainly helped in terms of her position, too.
Yeah.
So, Father Tony, how can Joan of Arc guide us today?
Interestingly enough, Joan of Arc is primarily remembered for being burned at the stake.
Right.
What she requested before she was burned at the stake, that a cross be brought before her at level eye, and a local cleric brought her the cross and placed that cross before her.
Literally as she's burning.
As she was burning,
Right.
and was said to have been saying, Jesus, Jesus, repeatedly. Right. And what that says to me was that she kept her eyes focused on him, even during her persecution, during her suffering, during her trials, and during being burned at the stake.
Right.
And to me, that is a very powerful image, that she kept her eyes on him. I think that's a great lesson for all of us, that when we're experiencing trial, persecution, when we are in that crucible of life and we're suffering, keep your eyes on me. And if we keep our eyes on him, we can withstand any trial, suffering, battle in life.
And change the world.
And change the world,
Right.
the outcome.
Father Tony, this is great. Thanks for meeting and talking about St. Joan of Arc.
Au revoir, in French. Good
Oui,
to
oui.
be, oui, oui. Good to be with you, Al. And we pray for the good people at Joan of Arc and in Minnesota, and all the student, faculty, staff at Marquette University as we remember Joan of Arc.
Right. And remember, we don't need saints to reach God. God uses saints to reach us.